You guys are doing well, and gals, all yeah. Just gonna make a quick update. Yeah, I'm gonna make this pretty quick, so let's just kind of keep it forward. So, just with Apple, I'm not too surprised that it got pushed down, though. I do think there's a couple things. I'll say what my initial thought was. So we start here. It makes sense if you want to take a short position here. I actually thought there was a decent chance we could have pushed up to here. We had a lot of weird stuff throughout the day. Overall, I still think there's a decent amount of bullishness in the market, and I'll get to that in a second. And that kind of comes from the VIX. Just to come from this, though, I think there was a decent chance that we had to keep pushing back up. One of the things I didn't like is that if we look on like the short term, and at least on the 1 minute, anyway, we can see that we were respecting this area pretty well. One of the things I didn't like, we can see this here, this here, this here on the top. I didn't like the fact that one, we didn't come back up here. There's something like here, I think, like that made this look. I think it was like actually right here. I'm just trying to go through it quick, but there's that made this look bad. I think it was something similar like this that made this look bad. So this made sense. This is the only place that made sense to take a position, in my opinion, throughout the whole day. Though there was something else, I think, like here and here, where I thought somewhere around here was still a good place to get out. I didn't get in a position. If I did, it would have been in here, and I would have gotten out here. So it went farther down. As you can see, it kind of is what it is. But you can see it looks like throughout the most of the day, it looks like it had potential. So let me kind of show you just to go over the VIX real quick. Why I thought that some of the stuff had a decent amount more potential. And long story short, I guess I think the VIX is just a little overshot from what it is. So the same thing I said in the other videos. When we look at the month time frame, we can see a couple things. So we do have this 375 hull support down here that we haven't had before. We now have 375 months, but we look here on the month, we have this, we could see these kind of things here, but more specifically, the bounces here and here. And then if we just do this here, just to kind of note these areas, we don't need to do the last one. We can just do we don't need the second one. And then let's go to the week time frame. And then we can see on the week time frame. So when we see on the week time frame here, we actually ended under, and then we started above and then came down to support, which is really nice here. What we did do here is we did come down. We didn't have a reversal, so we're not ending on the bottom and starting up. But another thing to also kind of note, just a couple differences also here. If we're looking at where this started 4% up away from it. This started 8.8%. So one's 4, one's 8.8. So this started twice as far away as from the average here as it did here. And we also, this is where that month time frame is. Let's see, is it on the current month? I want to put it on the current month. Not there. Let's put it here on the current month. And so we can see here we did come down to the week time frame. And you could say kind of in a sense, maybe it's a bounce, but we never hit the month. And so back here, we did hit the month also. So we had a little bit of strength there. So for me, I think this is a little overbought. On the day time frame, I definitely could see this pushing up. We do have some space here. We have 1, 2, a little bit of space here in between. So 2 bars kind of more or less. So I do like that. So I could kind of see this coming up a little bit more. But the one thing I really don't like is when we look on the week time frame, where I think a lot of this originates from. Also, there's other things too, but there's definitely other things I could talk about, possible double tops and things like that. But when we look at it on the week time frame, what my biggest perspective is, it feels anything that pushes up far from here, getting past here seems pretty overbought on this week. We never gap back down to close this, even if we just see it on the day time frame, right? We got this gap right here. And if you want to talk about to the last day's wick or whatever, we still have this gap right here that was never closed. So that's something that, it's just a little bit of weakness there. How much can it actually push up? Or anyone using this as a determinant, right? Or treating other things as a derivative. This is a derivative, I guess, in a sense. But if I've seen it in the past, so I assume people treat the VIX as a derivative. The VIX looks sketchy or looks good to go up. People, will treat other things as a derivative, even if it's the open markets where the VIX is supposed to be a derivative of. So that's pretty much that, and that's why I think there's a decent chance. I'm not too surprised right now seeing Bitcoin kind of get pushed up. I guess this is what I would say here. I think this is overshot, and I think this is too far up. I would have liked to have seen this push down. I think then it has a decent chance to push up in like 2 weeks. And when I say that, the big thing is what I think about isn't it's not always I maybe it might not always be right, but this is how I look at this. When I look at this, I say, okay, we're gonna bounce. If we're gonna bounce here, we're gonna challenge these two this level up here. I mean, there's other stuff up here in regards to the day time frame, which we can see is pretty determinant for what happened here. 12-hour, which we can see is pretty determinant for all this too. So we have a lot. I could go into short terms. There's probably more shorter terms above us also as well. But when I look at this, I kind of ask myself, what do we need to do to get past these areas? What do we need to do to get past it? And having movement like this, unless something really truly horrible happens or comes out, this isn't the kind of movement I'm really a big fan of to actually get past something. When I see stuff like this and there's a gap under, a little bit of weakness, I usually need to see something strong. Now, we could say something here like, oh, we have a gap here. The big difference is like what I said before is we have the month right here at like 73 and 93s on the week time frame. We engage both. We're here for 1 week and then we come back down on the second week. This one we just touched it. We It's a little love tap. That's pretty much it on the week, and we didn't touch the month whatsoever at all. So on the month, we still have this place where it hasn't touched. So to me, it's not super strong in the month because of that. If someone's only looking on the month, I think they're probably still expecting maybe it comes down from the week time frame. How much higher is this really going to push up before it starts coming down more? Um, and they're like, I'm not saying this isn't going to bounce here. And there's also that 375, I think that's right here. So I think this is a really strong area. The long story short, I think this is just premature for what it is. But I will say, if it has too much steam being premature, then it can kind of get wrecked. And I think a good example of that, it's not the best way to really, it's not like I don't want to use this saying, oh, this is why it did it. But a lot of the times when I see like ugly stuff that's premature, when we don't start in correct places or we push up, I usually see that it's a lot harder when we have to come back down and test to some of these areas. I'm not really a huge fan of when it happens, and it's just kind of one of those things. I don't want to go into too much with I don't want to go into it too much with USDT because I feel like I might have to go over some specifics. But we can just see that we start under, boom, we start all the way up here, we push up, start all the way up. I think we probably pushed up before we pushed down. It's like where the averages are. Let's just get support. Let's do our thing there. Let's build a position, then let's push up from there. So from that, I think I do like where Bitcoin is from that perspective. Okay, I'll say this: I don't like where Bitcoin is. I just like it from that one perspective. Another nice perspective about Bitcoin is I still think the better thing. It depends. Anyone do what they want. The safe play, in my opinion, is up here. The second safe play is it's probably somewhere in this area, really, to be honest. But I think if this can get a week that starts somewhere in this area, I do think that looks like a pretty decent go signal for it. The biggest issue I have is this looks like a really strong place, and I know this stuff's here. I don't really care. But we never hit the bottom, and my biggest issue is even if this does look super nice, it kind of just for this to go up and up, it could do that. I mean, it definitely actually really could do that. But the one question I kind of think about that would make me a little hesitant about expecting that would be from the perspective of, do we need to create like another cup that we did here, like right here, even if it's just short term? So like something like this, and then something up like that. Do we need kind of a right side to meet the left a little bit? But we'll see what happens. It's still, in my opinion, in relatively in this range right here. So it's like 17.5 top at 13.5 for the bottom of it right now. So the best thing I think the market has is the VIX shooting a little bit early without hitting proper support. So we'll see what happens from it. I truly think that's the best thing that it has. Whether it bounces at the end of the day, now that we have the 375 month average, it's kind of hard to see it not. But that's all the way down at 1904, and the month average is at 1983. And then we also have to deal with this, of course, with the VIX here, here, here. Just this trend line in general is just shown. I mean, obviously, like this doesn't show it because this is at the beginning. You can't take it from like here to here and say like, oh, the trend line pushed this up because the trend line didn't exist here, right? So it kind of is what it is. But we do have a trend that's formed here. Um, there's a decent amount of things that make this look pretty good. Obviously, the dollar is another issue here. This 90, I think it's like 99 to 100. I guess I put them down here at 98, but I think 98 all the way up to like 100 looks pretty decent. To be safe, I still think it's like 98.3 to 99.6. So I think it's a little premature with what it's doing. When we look on the month time frame, I can kind of see why it's getting bought up here. It makes sense. It would also make a little bit more sense to get bought up right here in this like 102, 103 area from the longer term. So that also could be an issue. So we could just be seeing some kind of corrective waves, you want to put in that kind of sense, or just some intermediate thing. None of this looks super amazing unless something horrible happens and really wrecks the market. And this action that it's been doing could just, in fact, make it worse. Or it could, if it does go down, it could cause it to go down harder than it would normally. So we'll kind of see with that. I still think it's the safe bet. I don't know. I don't want to say it like that, but how I feel about it is I still feel this looks pretty certain to like want to come down. I mean, all this here, this right here, it seems weird to just stop here and then try to push up higher without coming down into this area. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me really whatsoever. Anything can happen. But it makes a lot less sense to me to do that, especially, I mean, in the long term, the averages are all down here and look beautiful pushing up. Averages are all down here. Just so many averages. I mean, we could look at the day time frame, and we do have this kind of issue with what happened here. There are some sketchy things though, like right here. This is, to me, this is an exit point. Like if I was in something, this is the first exit point right here, right? Well, this is like exit actually. This is not like this is how I treat it with stuff. I like on a long term. I don't like, but if I guess if for some reason I had to advise someone on that didn't want to get everything out or whatever, this would be like a take profit spot. Way long ago would have been getting in on like a longer term. Um, but like this would have been a take a profit spot, get out, and this would have been another one. So the point of me saying that is it did work here. It looked nice, but it got jamoked here and it just pushed back up. So the point of that is there is a little kind of mixed signals in what it had here, and then it just ended up failing out. I just wanted to point that out. So it's not all of it at all. Everything doesn't always like completely line up. I always like to just point that out. So, but sometimes it's nice to that's also could be a sign in a sense, depending on how you want to interpret it. If things are a little wonky and uncertain, because uncertainty brings traders in, but usually gets rid of investors, right? You're not really going to invest into uncertainty, or people aren't really invest into uncertainty. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we kind of went over Apple real quick. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'll be on in the morning. I'm not really sure. We'll have to see where it starts. It's really hard. I doubt it starts. If it does start down here, I mean, we almost for sure probably then trend down to 138. I just think it's pretty tough to see that. The NASDAQ right now is still, we'll see what happens with it. I'll say this first. It's up 0.4%. The dollar's down 0.43% on the day. This one's up 0.4% on the day. So we'll see where this leads to. We'll see what happens with the VIX, where the VIX starts. If this keeps up with the NASDAQ, and if there's any like the Dow futures or whatever, what is it, YM1? Oh, let's just do this. So yeah, so like this is pushing up too, and oh, I have it right here. But yeah, so like this is pushing up too. So we'll see how this all affects. I mean, I don't know what the SPY. Do I have SPY ones? I don't know what the SPY ones are. But the point being, everything should be pushing up together. And so the chance of SPY is not, like, who knows? Like, but we'll see how that affects the VIX. And the VIX does have this gap area, specifically like between here and here. Well, that could easily pull it back down there and give more push. It could push the market up just a little bit more. The Dow anyway, is in a position where it's already above, right, where we had the last local high anyway, or like the last highs of August, we'll say that. So that could cause us to push up more. The Dow is also in the back end of this area, which looks fairly strong for what it's worth. If we could just put this here, yeah, I mean, this is where it came to. So this is like fairly strong for what it's worth. Maybe if I go into like previous stuff, we'll go all the way to the bottom where it is. So this looks like a fairly strong spot for what it is. Bottom's here, boom, 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 boom. I'm not saying it's super strong, but a bounce off of it. I think it bouncing here and continuing upwards is something that can't really be ignored by someone that would want to be like super bearish. Anyway, so we have that, and then we have the dollar that's already super high that could easily get pushed down more. So it could just turn into one thing, like the VIX being overshot could turn to all these other things kind of turning around and really pushing up. So we'll see what happens. In the morning, we'll have a better idea about it. I had a pretty bullish feeling about a lot of this stuff, as I was saying the stream in the morning. I had a big feeling like even though stuff was coming down, it still felt like it was buyable. Um, yeah, I just had this feeling like it just like from an investor standpoint, I just felt like I could see this still getting bought and being reasonable to be bought. So we'll kind of see how everything turns out more or less. Um, like I said with Apple, just a recap. If I did short, it would have been in the morning, but I would have been out of the position. I wouldn't have. I would have been in. I would have been in here. I would have been really concerned on this pop up. Not for long because this thing got wrecked right back down afterwards. But I would have gotten out. I think it was like right here was where it was, or it was either right there. I can't remember where it was specifically. I think it was like right here. But this thing went against some of my expectations, which it's possible it was just being brought down by the rest of the market. But if we look at just, I mean, it looks pretty nice. It looks like you really don't know what's going to happen. Well, when you see this candle, it's a little bit sketchy. But if we go like right before that, I mean, to me, you really don't know. I mean, when I look at the 1 hour, it's like, okay, I do get this, and I do kind of see this, like from a 1 hour perspective. We do have the day time frame here, so we already have inherent kind of bullishness starting in this area because we're looking at this is our range, and we're already starting. Whoops, we're looking at this being our range, and we're starting, I think, like 60%, or we're starting like 30%. Um, this is like 30% down, so there's like another 70% here. This is like 35% down. So there's more down than up, really, and we started underneath. So from a 1 hour perspective, I could also see you have a super small range here, but from a 1 hour perspective, you want to see it start above here. So I do get it from that perspective. On the day, it's bearish. On the 1 hour, we kept hitting. I do understand that kind of stuff, but even then, it looked pretty decent. So we'll see where stuff is in the morning. If some of these things can keep up, and if the dollar drops a little bit more, with just a little bit of bullishness, I don't see why this can't be all the way back up to like 1450 when the market starts. But we'll have to see. I think a lot of it will also depend on where the VIX starts. And then we'll just kind of see from that perspective. So, all right, take care, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow, probably like 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour in the morning at 9:15 Eastern to about 10 to 10:15. So take care, y'all.